you need to make sure you're being creative about what you're doing. And it's a trap that I feel like a lot of us fall into. I know that I definitely fall into it, where it's like, hey, this thing worked and let me do a bunch of videos like that. And that's great. And it's actually really smart, but it's easy to fall into the trap where you do that too much. Where it's like, if you post a video today and it goes viral and you want to try to make the similar video to post next month, that's probably a good idea. But if you're posting the same video that you made 2 years ago in terms of like similar type of content, the content that connects now, especially with all the algorithm changes on TikTok, it's not the same video that connected 2 years ago.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by IndiePRO.io.
What is going on, guys? Ed here. And today I'm going to be running through this episode of Creative Juice solo in the first of 2 episodes where Jack and I are going to each be running down our predictions for 2023. So welcome to episode 250 of Creative Juice, content, creativity, and music marketing in 2023. So kind of like I just said, the idea is that every year Jack and I like to get on the podcast and we like to talk through and say, here's our 3 predictions for the upcoming year, and kind of give you guys some insight and some input into what we have been seeing throughout this year and what we're thinking is going to kind of start being a trend for next year. So we thought it would be cool this year for you guys to have a little bit of time one-on-one with each of us, and I won the coin flip, or lost depending how you feel, to go first today. So no, I definitely won. I won the coin flip. Anyways, so today I'm going to be diving into my 3 predictions, and next week, make sure you tune in again. Jack's going to go through his 3 predictions for 2023. So it should be pretty cool. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts on how accurate you think these things are, how you're feeling these might play into your career as well. So definitely let us know. But let me jump right into it. So content, creativity, and music marketing in 2023. So my first prediction is that with TikTok becoming more and more saturated, as independent musicians, we're going to have to find and rely on more controllable ways to generate top of funnel attention. This is something that I've been seeing across a lot of accounts that I'm working on, and for myself as well. It feels like about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, like TikTok was really kind of starting to become popular. And if you were relying on essentially fan finder type videos as the content, they seem to work really well. It worked well for us. And there's about a laundry list of 100 artists that I can think of that also had very similar videos that connected and essentially helped, kind of rocket ship their careers to varying degrees. I think over the last year or 2 years, what we've started to see, and even as a user on the app, what I've started to see is that what was once like, hey, here's a performance video, right? Like what was once a great video for TikTok isn't necessarily the content to be focusing on as much. And this isn't to say that TikTok's going to become obsolete or not relevant, but I think it's going to require us as artists to kind of start to think about it a little differently. And the first way to do that is to consider, where is my career and where is my top of funnel kind of traction if I don't rely on these viral videos? And I think that's such a crucial thing, because I am going to talk in my second point about TikTok, but I think that understanding that there are ways to generate top of funnel attraction outside of TikTok is super crucial. Because the main benefit of TikTok in my mind is, hey, look, you get this video, it goes viral, you get 1 million views on it, all of a sudden you have people that are like rushing into your ecosystem. And it's intoxicating and it's great and it's super fun when something's going viral. And it's super frustrating when something isn't working as well. And it tends to work in segments, like it's not like every video you post is going viral. So the question and the observation for me is, how do you in 2023 start to drive, I guess, like controlled virality almost to a point where what you spend generates views for you and generates in some level the same degree as when something organically goes viral? I think that one, like continuing to make great content obviously is going to be important. But I think 2, really diving in and taking time to experiment with paid advertising is going to be more important than ever. And it's something we've talked about a lot, but it's something too where there are TikTok ads, and the TikTok ad accounts are now way better, both targeting, objective-wise, than they were a year ago. A year ago, they were just getting started, was kind of not worth it, more so than just like testing. Now it's really dialed in. It's a great ad platform. It's not quite as robust as like Facebook yet, but it is really, really useful. And so I think a key feature in 2023, in my opinion, is going to be diving into that, taking time to understand TikTok ads, taking time to understand Reels ads, really understanding like, what am I after here and how could I potentially achieve it? Because when I talk about TikTok ads and Instagram Reels ads, what those are, you're essentially paying for views, right? But if the content's great, what you're doing, you're generating the same results just with money that you would if something goes viral. And so that's kind of my first thought around 2023, is that TikTok is becoming more saturated. There are more users, there are more artists, there are more videos that look very similar to each other, and you're going to have to find a way to not only stand out, but you're going to have to find a way to be able to control how your content gets distributed to people. And I think that's going to be crucial in growing your career in 2023. So kind of feeding off of that, number 2 in my mind is that ingenuity is going to be more important than ever when it comes to types of videos that you film and that do go viral. I think we've probably all seen all the different TikToks that have worked and the creative marketing efforts and all those kind of things. As it gets more saturated, as I was saying in the first point, number 2 is going to say, hey, look, learn how to advertise, learn how to really rely and control your top of funnel awareness. Number 2 is saying, hey, you need to make sure you're being creative about what you're doing. And it's a trap that I feel like a lot of us fall into. I know that I definitely fall into it, where it's like, hey, this thing worked, and let me do a bunch of videos like that. And that's great, and it's actually really smart, but it's easy to fall into the trap where you do that too much. Where it's like, if you post a video today and it goes viral and you want to try to make the similar video to post next month, that's probably a good idea. But if you're posting the same video that you made 2 years ago in terms of like similar type of content, the content that connects now, especially with all the algorithm changes on TikTok, it's not the same video that connected 2 years ago. And so that's going to be a big challenge and a big key in 2023, I think, understanding and innovating and testing things that may or may not work really well on TikTok. And I think that holds a huge key of success. It's something that I'm placing a lot of emphasis on for myself, to really push myself and the guys in the 502s outside of our comfort zone and understand like, hey, we don't want gimmicky content, but how do we make our content more relatable? How do we push this further? How do we make this something that it's similar to what people have seen, but they haven't quite seen it yet? That's, I think, where the bread and butter is going to lie for organic top of funnel. And a great example of this is, I was today on there. I couldn't even tell you this band's name, but I opened up my TikTok and there's a video, and there's 3 guys who were in a church. There's a church over top of them, and they kind of just all leaned over at the start of the video. So really nice pattern interrupt. They leaned over the start of the video, hit this beautiful 3-part harmony for an original song of theirs, and it cut. It was about 15-second video, but instantly I was like, man, I like that. I liked the video. I saved it. I'm going to go back and watch it later and check this band out. And it's like, that was something where I was like, man, I haven't seen that, where like you have this beautiful church, ceiling, and then these guys just come in and hit a harmony and it's done. It was really cool aesthetically, really great vocally, really great harmonies. And that's the kind of stuff where it's like, hey, it's a slight twist on what we have seen, or at least that I have seen online. And I think that's going to be important going forward. And to kind of tie, number 2, which is the ingenuity and the type of content you create, it's very cyclical, because that feeds right back into my prediction for number 1 regarding the ads and the reels. And Jack and I just talked about this a couple weeks ago on an episode, but when something goes viral, it's important you understand and say, hey, this went viral. Let me pour some gas on the fire and start to send this out via ads now, because that helps increase your top of funnel awareness. So 1 and 2, my predictions there again, with number 1, with TikTok becoming more and more saturated, artists will have to find and rely on more controllable ways to generate top of funnel attraction and intention. Number 2 is ingenuity is going to be more important than ever. While TikToks that have worked historically will continue to be great content, they may not work in the same manner of virality that they have also worked historically, as they're not going to give people this sense of, I haven't seen something like this before. And ultimately, that's what is the best content online. And those two things work together really, really closely. So number 3 here for me is something that I think you hear us talk a lot about, email lists and that kind of stuff. But I'm predicting for 2023 that text lists, like text messaging, is going to start to become even more popular and utilized in more unique manners by more artists. So essentially the rise of texting, I think, is going to become really relevant. And there's a couple of reasons that I feel this way. Like the first one is that I still feel like texting and text marketing is starting to get its legs a little bit. Sure, a lot of people have text lists, right? But how do they actually use them? And on top of that, texting, a lot of these platforms are just now starting to get integrations with like Shopify, for example. You know, it's new features that are coming. And there's a couple things that I've seen kind of behind the scenes that are very promising for texting. One is the open rates, obviously. Like the open rates and click rates and actions taken via text are very, very high, much higher than email marketing. Now, granted, there is a little bit of a discrepancy on how many times you can text somebody before you're annoying versus how many times you can email. There's an advantage to email there. But as it relates to texting and as it relates to really what, again, 1 and 2, the points are like TikTok is a great top of funnel, right? And a lot of artists are driving after a younger audience. And this younger audience is seeming, both kind of through stories I've heard and in my own personal experience, they relate more to text messages. And I'm the same way. Like I'm more likely to do something if I get a text about it, if I remember to do it, versus the email. And again, this is no way saying email lists are obsolete or anything, because I think they will be your number one driver of revenue specifically for your store. But I think that text lists are becoming really popular. And I think that they're very easy things to get people onto. And, you know, like I'm thinking like, hey, I've had the backdrop of my Spotify for a really long time was our phone number for our text list. And as people started streaming it, just went and went and went. People automatically went from Spotify, saw that as the background on the canvas, would sign up. I've heard some really cool stories from artists that we're working with that are playing large venues, 4,000 or 5,000 people a night, but they're getting like a 20% conversion rate for like, they're getting like 1,000 text numbers a night. And that's just coming from in the middle of the show, flashing a QR code for the text number on the screen, saying like, get this thing for free, right? Like, so there's ways that I think that texting feels a little bit less invasive, especially to a younger audience, that allows artists to get more creative, but still capture their information and their contact information and extra information, right? Like not just the contact info, but you get their DMA, you get their age, you can learn these kind of things. You understand like where they are. And it's just from like, hey, let me remind you that I'm coming to town. And I think it's something that's way less weird to ask for at a merch stand. I think the phrase, hey, let me get your email is like, why? I don't want emails. It's like, hey, let me get your number for a couple texts when we're coming back to town. It's like, okay, yeah, I had fun at the show. Let me do that. And then obviously like texting works great for sales promos. We use it all the time in combination with email. They both drive it great. And my final thought around texting there and why I think it's going to become so popular and utilized is that if texting is the tip of the spear, if it's the first place that you're able to get somebody's contact information, there's no reason that you can't put together an opt-in form for your email list and say, send a text about it, right? Like, hey, we're dropping this secret song. It's only available via this link. Sign up for it. You can get it. Doesn't mean you have to send them to be like, hey, please sign up for our email list, but it can be like, hey, get the song here. Make them put their email in when they go to get the song. Now you have the email and the text. Now for sales promos, you can hit them twice. And I found that to actually be really successful. Sales promos, tickets, all those kind of things. Because like I said, I'm really likely to take an action via text message, but I'm also really likely to forget it. So if I see that and I say, hey, I want this thing, and then I come back to my inbox later and there's a text message or there's an email waiting for me in there, that's really great. And so number 3 for me is I think text lists are going to start to become even more popular and more utilized in more unique ways as we head into 2023. And it's really going to allow artists to expand their connection with their fans in a really positive way if they take advantage of it. So kind of just a couple fun observations. Like I said, content, creativity, and music marketing in 2023. Again, just to run them down, I think number one, TikTok's becoming more saturated. We're going to have to find and rely more controllable ways as independent artists to generate top of funnel attraction and attention. Number two, getting creative with the content you're making sure it's up to par, making great content across the board that gives people that feeling of, I haven't seen this before, is going to be super important. And then number three, text lists are going to be very, very important and become more utilized, in my opinion, in 2023 by artists across the board. So pretty fun. I always love doing this episode and giving you guys some thought into my insights. I look forward to down the road seeing how accurate these predictions were or were not. It's kind of what makes it fun. And make sure you tune in next week for episode 251, where Jack's going to be running down his 3 predictions for 2023 and giving you guys some insight into what he's thinking about and what he's seeing trend-wise in the industry. And it should all be really great. So cheers. Thank you for joining me on this one-on-one session, and I'll talk to you all soon.
East Coast.